takeaway position. So whether you were a golfer who is out, in, high, out in front, open, close, all of that, this little drill works wonders. Hey golfers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going deep dive on the takeaway. This is probably the most detailed takeaway video that I have done on YouTube, and if you stick to the end, you'll have a really good understanding of what the takeaway is, where it should be, and a drill that puts you there. It's such an important part of the golf swing. It sets the mood. It's a chain reaction from takeaway beyond. If we don't get that part right, it can be very, very difficult. Okay, so before we get started, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and let's get going. So generally, there's two schools of thoughts when it comes to the takeaway position. One, doesn't matter what your takeaway is like. It's unimportant. It's irrelevant. Two, your takeaway should be in a certain position. It should be very fundamentally or technically sound. Okay? If you've watched my channel before, you know what side of the fence I sit on when it comes to that. Okay? Let's take, for example, somebody like a Matt Fitzpatrick with a really strong grip, whips the club inside. Okay? So we'll try one here, and this could literally go anywhere. Got away, not too bad. Okay? Can you play good golf from there? Yes, if you're highly skilled like the guys on TV. But for the most of us, if we could have a technically more sound golf swing and hit these positions, we're going to have less making up to do and less compensations to do throughout the rest of the golf swing. The takeaway sets the tone for what's about to happen halfway back, top, and so on, right the way through the chain. So it makes sense that we put it in a really good position. Okay, so first of all, let's understand what the takeaway is. What position in the swing is it? This is something I see a lot of golfers getting wrong. They're maybe working on their takeaway and they take the club to here and it doesn't reach parallel. Or in some cases they work on their takeaway and they take it past parallel. Takeaway is when the shaft is parallel to the ground. So as we prescribe this drill later in this video, it's important that we make sure we know and establish that the takeaway is here, not before it and not after. Okay, because we're not going to want to work on things and stop here, only to let bad things happen to that point. Okay, so there's a few different types of takeaways that I see, and if you're watching this video because you clicked on it, it's about the takeaway. Potentially you're looking to help with your takeaway. Okay, and that's what this channel is about, helping people play better golf and understand things a little bit better. Okay, so what are some of the common pitfalls that I see from the takeaway position? Definitely the most common one will be the club going inside the hands, so behind the hands and the face getting very open. Okay, that's very common. You can also find that some people do that, but they keep the club face pretty decent in that it's the same angle as my spine. You'll see some people get to a pretty decent takeaway position, but when the club shaft is parallel, the hands are very high, so they're above my belt line. Okay, and we'll get to fixing all of these in a second. The not so common ones we're going to see are the club really far out this way, and a very common one is as soon as the club leaves, the arms start to separate from the body, so we get this disconnection. Those are the very common ones that I'm going to see. Okay, and watching this you might think, yeah, that one's me or that one's me. But we're going to get into a drill and understand what the drill's achieving so that we can fix whether you're any of those, we can start fixing it. So let's take a look at this drill and explain it in a little more detail. So in order to do this drill correctly, we're going to need two alignment sticks, okay? One can be fine, you can use a club. If you only have one, that's fine. But the first one we're going to put down is our target line, okay? This can also help you with a secondary thing in terms of your aim, okay? Feet parallel to this stick. Good stuff, right? Now, the second stick that we're going to bring in, it's really important where we put this. What we're going to do is set up to the golf ball, feet parallel to the target line stick. We're going to take this one and take one club head from your right toe, and this is where you're going to place this alignment stick, okay? Parallel to the target line stick, okay? So you get yourself a little practice station. Keep the ball there because we're going to be rehearsing this first before we even hit balls. But when I'm set up here, I have one club head from that stick. All right. Now, that's our drill setup. Let's talk about what the takeaway should do. All right. Now, in a takeaway, we have to manage quite a few things. All right. We have to make sure that when we take the club away, the face stays square. Okay. We also have to make sure that our hands get to the right height, not too high, not too low. We also have to make sure the club is essentially on plane, this way, not in here, that way. We also have to establish some connection with our body, right? That's a lot of stuff to be thinking in the first part of the swing. So this drill is really going to help you nail all of those, okay? So let's talk, when we get into this setup position, right? When we get to our takeaway, remember shaft parallel to the ground. The club face, leading edge or sole of your club should match your spine. That is square to the arc that the club is moving on, okay? The other thing that we want is to make sure that our club head is either in line with our hands, that would be sort of silver glove, or I prefer it slightly out, bearing in mind the majority of golfers have it too much inside here. So very slightly outside, okay? We want to have some connection between our sort of pec and armpit. This is connecting our arms, our hands, and our club to our body, allowing us to keep the club in front of our chest, not getting it in here, kind of no man's land. So that, okay? And the other thing, as we said, was the height of the hands. We don't want the hands being up here. So the shaft is parallel, but my hands are far too high. So there's an element of keeping these hands lower as we hinge the club to parallel, okay? And that allows us to achieve that. So if you've stuck through all that and you haven't gone away and gone, flip, guy's talking way too much, then thank you. But the drill's going to do all this for us, okay? So when we set the drill up, as we said, we've got one club head from the stick, okay? Now, everything on this side of the stick, this one's kind of irrelevant now, inside, outside, okay? So what we need to try and do is, when we get to our takeaway position, we're going to try and keep our hands on the inside portion, this side, and the club very slightly on the out. Now, it doesn't need to be out here. For some, it might need to feel that way if it's a very extreme inside. But our club is just a fraction on this outside portion. Now, you actually get a lot of this stuff that I talked about for free, because the sheer hands in, club out, we can then look for our club face to match the spine. If you do this correctly, it should do that. If it doesn't, go back and just get a feeling of, okay, that's matching my spine. If it's a little bit this way, which it shouldn't be, but you could just nudge it down so that it does match your spine. Or even 11 o'clock on a clock face as you look back, 12, 11. So it's a little bit more that way, okay? Now, by keeping this, the hands on the inside portion and the club on the outside, as I do this, and when you try it, you'll feel the same, I'm keeping pressure in here. So I've got that connection now with the club. The club is in front of my chest at this point. So we're there, we're back to that point, okay? Now, in terms of the height of the hands, when I do this, as I'm working the hands on the inside part of the stick, club on the out, by the time my hands get to the right thigh, there's a little bit of hinge happening. It's kind of that feeling of when you take it back, you push down with the left hand and up with the right. This way and this way. Do you see how that would keep the grip lower? Because we could, in theory, get into this position, have the hands in, club out, but be way up here, and that wouldn't be any good because we don't have that connection. We've just lifted the club. So the feeling of the left hand going down as the right hand sort of pulls up is a nice little feeling, okay? But when all is said and done and we do this drill, we should be able to stand up. As I say, when you try this, a lot of this stuff comes for free, but I want you to check it just in case maybe you do it and the face is open. It shouldn't be, but as I say, just check it. So we're here, hands go inside, club stays outside, and there's a little bit of hinge happening by my right thigh. There. So this puts me in a really solid takeaway position. So whether you were a golfer who is out in, high, out in front, open, close, all of that. This little drill works wonders, okay? And I think it really does, even though maybe some of that sounds complicated. When you do the drill, it will feel very simple. And what you got to do is reps, okay? When we're coming to hit golf balls with this, first step in any drill is make sure, even video yourself, make sure you're doing it correctly and you're hitting these positions. You should feel that pressure in here. The face should be good, the hands slightly in, club slightly out, and the hands not up here, but also nice and low, okay? So when you get in there, you feel it, you check, and you say, yep, doing that part good. Okay, now what you're going to do, alongside hundreds of reps, you know I'm a big fan of repetition. So here, then when you're there and you go, yep, happy with that, we're going to give it a little pump and hit. Doesn't need to be a full swing. I'm not trying to propel it too far. I think when you're doing drills like this, set yourself a boundary or a target, maybe 50 yards out in front, and say, okay, I'm going to do my drill, but I'm not going to let the ball pass that, because we're all guilty of going, right, nice and easy, do the drill. Here, if you're anything like me and you like to wear a good quality leather glove when you're playing golf, but don't fancy the high price tag, well, go and check out my channel sponsors page, gxgolfgloves.com. Really good quality glove at a fraction of the cost. Use code David at checkout and you'll save yourself a nice little bit of cash as well. Ball is good. We get to this and then it's, right, I'll just hit it 50 yards and then bang, full whack, okay? We're not going to do that. We don't need to do that because we're just likely to fall back into bad habits, okay? So really slow, methodical reps, setting up, there, rehearse 1 or 2 times before every shot, feel it, there, 3rd or 4th one you can hold it, just glance back, check it, little pump, and hit, okay? So the takeaway I know that a lot of people work on, okay? But by doing it this way, you're going to work on it correctly. You're going to have a little bit of a better understanding of what you're trying to achieve from the takeaway. A square club face, the club head in the right position, the connection, the height of the hands in the takeaway. And I promise you, if you can take some time with this drill and comprehend and understand those pieces that I've mentioned, you're going to have yourself a really good takeaway. And the beauty is as well, if your setup is good and you nail your takeaway and the ball still doesn't behave, well, now you're sitting there going, okay, start to think of things. Setup's good. Takeaway's good. It's still not behaving. So it's not those. It's something after that point. So then you can start watching my other videos and tackle those as well. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.